7 Stoic Ways to Become So Valuable They'll Regret Losing You, Stoicism and Self-Improvement. There is a quiet kind of power that comes from becoming so genuinely valuable that your absence leaves a hole no one can easily fill. The Stoics never taught this as a game of manipulation or revenge. They taught it as the natural result of internal mastery. A person who has built discipline, competence, and calm strength does not need to chase recognition, because the recognition eventually comes looking for them. In this video, we're covering 7 Stoic principles that will transform how people see your worth, not by demanding it from them, but by becoming someone whose value speaks entirely for itself. If this is the kind of growth you're after, subscribe to Quotes Library now, because this channel exists to help you build a life so solid that no one who overlooks you will ever forget the mistake. Before we begin, understand this clearly. The goal here is not bitterness. It is not about becoming valuable so you can prove a point to someone who hurt you. The Stoics would reject that motivation entirely, because building your worth around someone else's regret keeps you chained to their opinion of you. The true goal is mastery for its own sake, becoming so capable, so grounded, and so consistent that regret in others is simply a natural byproduct of your growth, not the reason for it. Keep that distinction in mind as we go, because it changes everything about how sustainable this transformation will be. Way 1. Master your reactions. The first Stoic principle is learning to control your reactions so completely that nothing external can destabilize you. Epictetus taught that people are not disturbed by events, but by their judgments about events. A person who flies into anger at every slight, who spirals at every setback, who needs constant reassurance to stay calm, becomes exhausting to be around, no matter how talented they are. Emotional volatility quietly erodes the value other people see in you, even when your skills remain excellent. Mastering your reactions does not mean suppressing emotion or pretending nothing bothers you. It means creating a gap between what happens and how you respond, so that your actions are chosen rather than triggered. This single shift changes how people experience you. Calm becomes your signature. Steadiness becomes something people rely on, especially in moments of pressure when everyone else is falling apart. The person in the room who stays composed while chaos unfolds around them is remembered long after the chaos has passed, because composure under pressure is rare, and rare things are valuable by definition. Build this skill deliberately, through small daily practice, until it becomes your natural state rather than an effort you have to make. Way 2. Become undeniably competent. The second principle is simple but demanding. Become so skilled at what you do that your competence cannot reasonably be questioned. Marcus Aurelius wrote extensively about doing the work in front of you fully, without complaint, without seeking shortcuts, and without needing an audience to witness the effort. Competence built quietly, through consistent practice over years rather than performative bursts of activity, becomes a foundation nothing can easily shake. This kind of skill takes patience most people are unwilling to give it. It requires showing up on the days when no one is watching, refining details that no one will immediately notice, and treating your craft with a seriousness that eventually becomes undeniable to everyone around you. People do not regret losing someone mediocre. They regret losing someone whose absence creates a gap in quality that is immediately, uncomfortably obvious. Focus less on being liked and more on being genuinely excellent, because excellence has a way of earning respect that likability alone never can. The Stoics understood that virtue and competence are inseparable. Doing your work well is itself a form of moral discipline, not just a professional one. If building this kind of quiet mastery interests you, subscribe to Quotes Library, because we go deep into Stoic philosophy every week, giving you the tools ancient thinkers used to build lives of real substance. Way 3. Speak less, deliver more. The third principle asks you to let your results carry more weight than your words ever could. Stoic philosophy consistently warns against excessive talk, empty promises, and the habit of announcing intentions before they've been proven through action. Zeno taught his students that wisdom shows itself far more through restraint than through eloquence, and this applies directly to how you build value in the eyes of others. People who constantly talk about what they're going to do, without consistently following through, slowly lose credibility even if they don't notice it happening. People who say little but consistently deliver build a different kind of reputation, one rooted in trust rather than promise. This does not mean becoming silent or withholding your voice entirely. It means being intentional about when you speak, making sure your words are backed by substance rather than performance. Over time, this earns something far more valuable than admiration. It earns reliability, and reliability is the quality people miss most painfully once it's gone. Let your work announce itself. Save your words for when they truly matter. Way 4. Build discipline no one sees. The fourth principle is about the discipline you practice when there is no one around to witness it. Seneca wrote often about the private battles that shape character. The early mornings, the difficult tasks completed without recognition, the choices made in solitude that no one will ever know about except you. This invisible discipline is where real value is actually built, long before anyone else notices the results. Most people only put in effort when they know they're being observed, which means their value is inconsistent, dependent entirely on an audience. A person who trains, works, and grows even in complete privacy builds a different kind of strength, one that shows up reliably in public because it was never dependent on public approval in the first place. This is the discipline that eventually becomes impossible to ignore, because it produces results too consistent to be accidental. Build habits that no one applauds. Do the difficult thing when there's no credit attached to doing it. This is where the Stoics believed true character was forged, and character, more than any single skill, is what makes a person irreplaceable. Way 5. Detach from the need to be needed. The fifth principle is one of the more difficult Stoic teachings to apply, because it asks you to stop chasing approval from the very people whose regard you might be craving. Epictetus taught that peace comes from focusing entirely on what is within your control and releasing your grip on what is not, including how others perceive you. Paradoxically, the moment you stop desperately needing someone's approval, your value in their eyes often increases, because desperation itself is one of the least attractive qualities a person can carry. Detachment here does not mean coldness or indifference to relationships. It means building your sense of worth from an internal foundation rather than an external one, so that your confidence does not collapse the moment someone fails to recognize you. People are naturally drawn toward those who seem whole without them, and repelled, slowly, by those who seem to need constant validation. Practice this detachment deliberately. Remind yourself daily that your worth was never actually dependent on any single person's opinion, no matter how much it might have felt that way in the past. A short story, The Blacksmith Who Left Quietly. There is an old story, likely embellished over the centuries but useful nonetheless, about a blacksmith named Tullius who worked for a wealthy landowner in the Roman countryside. For years, Tullius crafted the finest tools and weapons in the region, arriving before dawn, working through the heat of the day, and never once complaining about the long hours or the modest pay he received for such exceptional work. The landowner, distracted by his own ambitions and surrounded by louder, more demanding workers who constantly asked for raises and recognition, began to overlook Tullius entirely. He gave the best commissions to men who complained the loudest, assuming their volume meant greater value. Tullius said nothing. He simply continued his work with the same quiet discipline he always had, refining his craft further, studying new techniques in the evenings, becoming, without anyone fully realizing it, the most skilled blacksmith in the entire province. One autumn, a neighboring landowner, hearing rumors of extraordinary craftsmanship, offered Tullius a position with fair pay and genuine respect for his skill. Tullius accepted without hesitation and left quietly, without confrontation, without announcing his departure as any kind of statement. He simply thanked his old employer for the years of work and walked away. It was only in the following months, as tools broke down, deadlines were missed, and the quality of work produced by the remaining blacksmiths fell dramatically short, that the landowner truly understood what he had lost. He sent messengers offering double the pay if Tullius would return. Tullius, now respected and valued elsewhere, politely declined every offer. The landowner spent years afterward telling anyone who would listen about the blacksmith he let slip away, never once realizing that Tullius had never needed his recognition to become exceptional. He had simply needed time, discipline, and the patience to keep building quietly until his value became impossible to ignore, by someone, somewhere. If a story like this resonates with where you are in your own life right now, this is exactly the kind of wisdom quotes library is built to deliver. Subscribe now, because building quiet, undeniable value is one of the most powerful things you can do for your future, and we're here to help you do it with intention. Way 6. Guard your reputation through consistency. The sixth principle is understanding that reputation is built almost entirely through repetition rather than single, dramatic moments. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself constantly to act with integrity in even the smallest actions, because he understood that character is not defined by rare grand gestures but by what a person does consistently, day after day, when the stakes seem low. This consistency becomes your reputation over time, Whether you're actively shaping it or not, a person who is reliable 90% of the time is remembered for the 10% where they failed. A person who is reliable every single time becomes someone others build their plans around, because predictability, in a chaotic world, is deeply valuable. Guard this consistency carefully. Show up the same way whether you're tired or energized, whether you're being watched or working in complete privacy, whether the task feels significant or mundane. This is exhausting to maintain, and that exhaustion is exactly why so few people manage it, which is precisely what makes those who do so rare, trusted, and eventually irreplaceable in the eyes of the people around them. Way 7. Grow beyond what they can replace. The seventh and final principle is the culmination of everything we've discussed today. Growth, sustained over years rather than months, eventually produces a version of you that simply cannot be substituted by anyone else, because your specific combination of discipline, skill, character, and calm strength becomes entirely your own. The Stoics believed that self-improvement was not a finite project with an endpoint, but a continuous practice stretching across an entire lifetime, always deepening, always refining. This is the true source of the regret we've been discussing throughout this video. It is not manufactured through manipulation or strategic distance. It is the natural, almost inevitable result of a person who kept growing long after others assumed they had reached their ceiling. When you become someone whose value keeps expanding, year after year, the people who once overlooked you are left comparing whatever they have now to a version of you that no longer exists, because you have already moved far beyond it. This is not revenge. It is simply the quiet outcome of a life built on Stoic discipline, applied consistently, without needing anyone's permission or approval to keep going. If this video gave you a clearer sense of the path forward, that is exactly what Quotes Library exists to do. Subscribe now, because there is far more Stoic wisdom ahead, and every person who joins this channel helps it reach someone else who needs exactly this kind of guidance today. Share this with someone who's doubting their worth right now, because sometimes the reminder that quiet, consistent growth is enough is exactly what a person needs to keep going. You do not need to prove your value to anyone. You only need to keep building it, patiently, privately, and completely, until it speaks for itself. Keep becoming.